Hi out there, gays, fruit flies, and allies. I am Barrett, Laurie, and thank you for joining me for this video to the Let's Talk About Butt Stuff playlist. Before we get into that, we're going to take care of that channel maintenance. If you're new here, consider clicking that subscribe button and dinging the bell. The bell gives you notifications every time I upload new content to the channel, which is 2 times every single week. If you enjoy the content, click that like button and leave me a comment below. I look forward to engaging with you on the topic at hand down in those comments. If you haven't already, head over to the socials. You'll find me at Barrett_Laurie at Twitter and Instagram. Give me a follow, and I look forward to chatting with you on the socials. As always, I told you all at the beginning of this YouTube channel journey that I was going to occasionally do videos to the Let's Talk About Butt Stuff playlist to talk about issues that pop up with my journey with Crohn's disease. And I have a new update. And not the kind I was wanting, but I don't think it's the end of the world just yet. As I talked about in a previous video, which I will link to up here, there was an instance a couple of months ago now, I guess, where there was some severe concern about my liver and that it had been kind of attacked by my body when I was in a flare that was uncontrolled over the last few years before I was properly diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I had been complaining to my GI doc just recently about some acid reflux, what felt like acid reflux, and some difficulty swallowing. In fact, it was to the point where I was afraid I might have gotten COVID or strep or something like that. I had talked to my doctor and said, hey, I've tested negative for strep, I've tested negative for COVID. My husband had tested positive a few weeks ago, so I've been tested multiple times out of an abundance of precaution, and had been tested for everything under the sun, and I didn't have anything that was popping up in any of those test results, strep, bronchitis, anything. Then he was kind of like, that's curious that you're having this pain swallowing and sort of like a sore throat symptoms, as well as what you describe as acid reflux. I wanted to get a second liver biopsy from you, which we can do during an upper endoscopy, which is the procedure kind of like the colonoscopy, which goes up the other end. The endoscopy goes down your throat into your stomach and can just kind of take a look at what's going on down there, similar to a colonoscopy. And there is a new thing now that they can do in the upper endoscopy where they will take sort of a sonogram from inside and they can do a liver biopsy while they're in the endoscopy process. And he said, I'd like to do that because I'd like to see what's going on in your esophagus and in your stomach and make sure you don't have ulcers or some other things, and make sure that your Crohn's isn't presenting inflammation in another area of your body. And I'm thinking like,
no, that's not it. It's definitely not it.
So anyway, last Friday, I went in for my very first upper endoscopy. First time I ever had it done. To me, this stuff is kind of like old hat because I go in, they put me to sleep, I wake up, it's over. I don't really think much of it. The nurse that had taken me back before the procedure had told me that the doctor, Dr. Chin, wouldn't come and visit with me unless there was something he needed to discuss with me afterwards, that everything would show up in my chart and it would be covered with Dr. McHenry, Dr. Deepak, and Dr. Chin on a call set up at a later date. I come up, I wake up, the nurse comes in, asks how I'm doing, and checks my vitals and tells me I'm gonna have about a 40 to 45 minute wait because I did have the biopsy. I would need to wait until they were sure there was no bleeding or anything like that, and then they would release me. But she said the doctor wants to come back and see you.
Well, that can't be good.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. Because I'm still kind of loopy, so I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Dr. Chen comes back and sits down with me and says, hey, I wanted to let you know that we found inflammation all along your esophagus. And he said, I want to visit with Dr. Deepak about it and show him the images from the endoscopy, but I am pretty sure this is Crohn's related. So that was like a punch in the gut. If you haven't followed this particular series, I've been in flare for 1.5 years this February. So 1.5 years, my body has been like exploding and in lots of pain and all kinds of crazy stuff, multiple surgeries. And I was finally getting to the point where my doctors had fought with my insurance company enough to get the infusions that I need, all the chemo pills, medication that I need to get this flare under control, to the point that we were talking about remission in May. I asked him, I said, well, will this impact me going into remission? And he said, at this point, it's too soon to tell. We're going to put you on some new medications to treat the acid reflux that you're experiencing, and that should help with some of the inflammation. But he said, I think it's all related to this flare, and I need to talk to your GI doc and we'll go over all of this together before we make any determinations about your remission status. I mean, that would have been the case anyway. But I said, just kind of level with me. Is this likely to set me back off of remission? And he said, at this point, no, that there was still enough time for the medicine to work and for the inflammation to go down in my esophagus and allow me to technically go into remission status in May. He asked me at that time, he said, well, how long have you been in flare? And I said, October of 2019. And he goes, oh, you mean 2020? And I said, no, October of 2019. And he was like, you've been in flare for over a year? I said, almost a year and a half. And he said, whoa, that's something. I said, yeah, try living it. Long story short, my advice to anyone out there is don't ignore anything that you think might not be Crohn's related. Talk to your GI doctor about it. So for example, my symptoms that told me that something was wrong felt a lot like a sore throat or strep or something of that nature. I had constriction in my throat. The muscles around my throat were very, very sore. I had what felt like acid reflux, but folks, we're talking I had acid reflux on days I wasn't eating. So I would be fully fasted for 36 hours and I'm still getting acid reflux. And by the way, the only thing I'm eating when I'm eating is fruit and green smoothies. So, and there's nothing going in them that should have aggravated or created an acid reflux type response, right? Which is part of what Dr. Chen was talking about when he said, I think this is Crohn's related. He knows that I'm working with your nutritionist, that I'm on a very strict diet, that I'm fasting multiple days a week. So he knew that like, this is unusual for someone on this diet to have this kind of a response. What I would say to you is if you're experiencing acid reflux or some kind of a tightening or feeling of constriction in your throat, maybe it hurts to swallow. For me, it hurt to swallow hot things. Cold, I don't really drink a lot of cold things. I have chilled water occasionally, but most of the time I drink room temp. So room temp was always fine. Cold wasn't that bad. In fact, it kind of soothed, but hot stuff kind of bothered me. The way a sore throat would feel is if you're experiencing any of those symptoms, talk to your GI doctor about it. Make sure you don't need an upper endoscopy to make sure that there isn't some inflammation, because Crohn's can exist all the way from your esophagus to your anus. So anywhere between here and your bum can all become inflamed and can all be impacted by a Crohn's flare. You don't want to mess with this stuff, guys. If you are in doubt at all, go ahead and err on the side of caution. Talk to your doctor, talk to your family doctor first, then talk to your GI doctor, and just say, do you think it's worth doing an endoscopy? Should I check this out? I'm having some feelings in my throat that cannot be explained by other tests, Crohn's, bronchitis, whatever else. And I will say it again, as I have said it many, many times in these videos, no one is your best advocate for your health but you. So there will be times when your doctors look at you and go, are you being a little over dramatic? That's when you give them a big old and say no. So listen to me and help me out here. Do what I'm asking of you, or I'll find someone who will. And honestly, with your health, that's how you gotta be. That's the topic of the day, esophageal inflammation. Talk to your doc. If you're getting an upper endoscopy, there ain't nothing to it. It's simple. You're gonna go in, you're gonna go nighty-night, you're gonna wake up, and it's gonna be over. It's just like colonoscopy. So nothing to be scared of. Do not be afraid to have it done. Do it if they want you to do it. It's always better to get the thing done, to check out what's going on. I will keep you posted on what's happening here. They did put me on a medication. I have not had the prescription filled yet. I'm picking it up tomorrow. So once I have that prescription and have started it, I'll touch base in a couple of weeks and let you know how it's working, whether or not any of these symptoms have kind of subsided, and fingers crossed I can still hit that remission status in May. If you are a Crohn's warrior, if you are someone suffering from chronic illness, hang in there, stay strong, you can do this. I am sending you all the healing well wishes that I have in my body. I appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Again, if you're new here, consider clicking that subscribe button and dinging the bell. The bell gives you notifications every time I upload new content to the channel, which is 2 times every single week. If you enjoy the content, click that like button and leave me a comment below. Also, if you haven't already, head over to the socials. You'll find me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett_Laurie at both. Give me a follow. I look forward to chatting with you there. My DMs are always open to anybody suffering from chronic illness, especially Crohn's disease. I do not have all the answers, but I can certainly give you my personal experience to see if that helps you in any way. Take care of yourselves and stay healthy and well.